Welcome to the Potter Blog site. September 21st, 2013. Ultraviolet light C-band. 1-pass kill probabilities for influenza. This is a chart that shows the kill probabilities of ultraviolet light in milliwatt seconds per square centimeter at 25% relative humidity, 75% relative humidity. We pulled this from a research study. The data behind it came up with this chart. We'll go into this in more detail in a second, but just to get to the end summary of it, well, before we tell you the quick result, let us give you these disclaimers just so that you're aware. First of all, we reserve all rights. Our conflict of interest statement is we have no conflicts of interest and make no money from any of these products. This is for non-commercial use only. We copyright it. Here's our end result of looking at these various units. We found one unit that works very well. We believe 3 times better than a medical grade HEPA at the same airflow rate, and that is the Swordfish UV Room Condo Air Purifier. Happens to be on sale through September 30th for $110 shipped. And we'll have a link to this on our website. But now for the details, for people who are interested in the math behind this and how we, what our research methodology was, well, let's look real quick. What we did was, well, let me read it off of our web page here, easiest way to read it. We sought to identify if there were any home portable UVC air sterilizers on the market which might provide significant risk mitigation capability in the event of an H7N9 Influenza Pandemic. Based on design characteristics, we narrowed it down to 3 units that we thought had a good capability of actually killing influenza virus in the air. Of those 3, we eliminated 1 because it was advertised as also having ultraviolet V-band capability to oxidize airborne chemicals. So based on our analysis, we found only 1 unit we think that is up to snuff, and that is a Swordfish unit here. And what we discovered was, our math of our analysis, it led us to the fact that at 25% relative humidity, it kills 0.9999999999595. Just basically, hardly anything ever makes it through this thing alive. At 75% relative humidity, it's the same setup. Just a point. Yeah, this is 1 being 100% kill, 0.9999999 whatever. At the end of life, after 9,000 hours, it's still 7 nines, and even at 75% relative humidity. What makes this unit work so well is that it has an 18-watt bulb, which gives an effective wattage of 5.5 in the UVC band, and it puts out 30 cubic feet of air a minute on setting 2. Setting 1, 21.5 cubic feet per minute. This affects the dwell time of the air in the unit, but basically what it comes down to is the highest setting, setting 2, is suitable for viruses and bacteria, although the study and the math in this is based purely on influenza. Setting 1 works best for molds, as molds are harder to kill, so you need a longer dwell time. To make 1 complete pass in a standard size room, which is a 9 by 14 by 8, 33.6 minutes. Now the runner-up, or the other unit we found that we compared it against, was this Germ Guardian unit, and at 25% relative humidity it was only 0.986 was its PK value, at 75% 0.96, and then at 9,000 hours that dropped down to 0.92. So in percentages, it's a 92% kill after 9,000 hours of life. The primary difference in this unit was a much lower wattage. It's a 9-watt bulb, which gives off 2.2 watts in the important UVC band. The time to clean the room, 1 pass, is 43.8 minutes. So, well, what does that mean? And how does that compare to a HEPA filter? Well, Best way to explain that was we came up with a 100 million particle challenge. If you threw 100 million particles at a medical grade HEPA filter, the Swordfish UVC, and the Germ Guardian, how many of these virus particles would be filtered or make it out alive? Against a medical grade HEPA filter, in the first pass of the 100 million particles that came in, 30,000 would still come out, and that'd be enough to get you infected. Second pass of these 30,000, 9 would still come out, still a probability of getting you infected. Third pass, finally, all the particles have been removed from the air. Now, if you compare this to the Swordfish, our calculations show, kills all 100 million virus particles on the first pass. The Germ Guardian, on its first pass, leaves behind 1.4 million virus particles still alive. On the second pass, roughly 20,000 virus particles are still alive. Third pass, 274 virus particles are still alive. Fourth pass, 4 virus particles are still alive. Fifth pass, all the virus particles are still dead, are finally dead. So this extra bit of efficiency means a whole lot when it comes to virus killing power. And again, UVC kills virus, whereas HEPA filters just capture the viruses in the filter. Now, again, this is a medical grade filtering system, which is the HEPA filter itself and the device it sits in. We believe that this Germ Guardian device actually operates probably roughly equivalent to a home HEPA filter. So we believe home HEPA filter and Germ Guardian, in terms of filtering versus killing at the same cubic foot per minute rate, roughly the same. Swordfish is just a lot better, and that's because of the stronger bulb. Now that's a 100 million particle challenge, and that just gives you an idea of the filtering versus killing efficiency. But what's a real challenge? How much virus is in a person's cough? Well, turns out it's 160,000 flu viruses particles per cough. Now, where did we get that? Well, that was thanks to this research study right here. Influenza virus aerosols in human exhaled breath, particle size, culturability, and effect of surgical masks. This is where we got these values from. The UVC lighting values came from this research study, aerosol susceptibility of influenza virus to UVC light. These studies are linked on our homepage. And then we also looked at a third study here from the Air Force Research Lab, viral penetration of high efficiency particulate air filters, HEPA. Let's look at one quick quote out of here. Let me pull it up. It says, HEPA filters may not provide adequate protection for all threats. Viruses are submicron in size and have small median infectious doses. Thus, an appropriate viral challenge may yield penetration that will lead to infection of personnel. This is a very interesting document to read. If you read through this, you'll get a good idea about HEPA filters, and you'll also get a good idea of what the difference is between a weaponized virus and an unweaponized virus. Again, the link to this is on our blog site, where we go into a little bit of detail. You're getting a lot more detail on this video, but back to the math. Per that research study, and the person they studied, every time he coughed, he put out 160,000 virus particles out per cough. No sneezing, just a cough. Now, what's very interesting about this is I think it was approximately 120,000 of these virus particles were the extremely fine kind, and aerosols, basically, just a mist, the type that stays in the air for a very long time, the type that are difficult for HEPA filters to filter. I believe the other 40,000 virus particles were larger in size, droplets, the type of things that fall out of the air very quickly. So the fine particles were where most of the threat was airborne. Now, if we look through this, so say we had this person cough into a medical HEPA filter. After the first pass, Of those 160,000 virus particles, 48 of those virus particles would not have been captured by the HEPA filter. That's potentially still enough to give you the flu. If we would have then put a second HEPA filter behind it to give a second pass through it, all of the particles would have been captured. Now for the Swordfish UVC probability of kill, all 160,000 viruses, based on our analysis, would have died. They would have been killed going through the past the bulb. The Germ Guardian, our analysis indicates that first pass through 2,240 viruses would have still been alive. Second pass, 31 viruses would have still been alive. And then finally the third pass, it would have killed all the virus. So there's a very important bit of information here, and that is that if you can get the HEPA cleaner or your germicidal UVC light cleaner, it's not actually a cleaner, it's a sanitizer, if you will, the closer you get it to the source of the cough, the more likely you are to capture the virus particles, because as they spread across the room, eventually they're going to be distributed more evenly across the room. So your best first shot of intercepting airborne virus is close to the source of the virus production. Now, it'd be nice to know what the amount of virus would be out in a sneeze, and that might actually even vary from influenza type to influenza type, but we don't know that. Now, get a little bit into the math here, or to explain what we did. Let's go back to our photo here. This is what to look for in a UVC unit. And make this just a little bit smaller. Again, what to look for in a UVC unit, a unit that's effective has airflow going axially along the bulb, going with the length of the bulb. That gives the air the greatest amount of exposure time to the bulb. Units where the air goes across the bulb, the air just doesn't have enough dwell time around the bulb for them to be killed very efficiently. And that's a problem you see with, I believe, almost every home HEPA filter that has a combination germicidal light in it, is because of the way they have to use the HEPA filter, the bulb is in the wrong rotation to be effective. So home-based HEPA filters with germicidal lights in it, the germicidal functions, in our opinion, is at best dubious for killing airborne threats. Now what we did is we estimated the amount of UVC light, the fluence, at the boundary layer airflow right here as far away from the light as possible, but still inside the killing chamber. So this gives us the viruses that are flowing right along the edge here are the ones least likely to be killed because they experience the least amount of light. And so that's what we used as our conservative basis. Now, how we did our calculations was we took published bulb data, chamber sizes, published CFM data, and we did the math. And in essence, how we came up with the milliwatt seconds per centimeter squared was by taking the surface area of the bulb and the wattage and ratioing it out across the surface area of the killing chamber, and that gives us the UVC milliwatts per centimeter. And then the airflow rate is a function of the specified cubic feet per minute of the fan and the volume of the killing chamber. And now, the one study we looked at where we got these values from to develop our probability of kill numbers, one thing to consider in that study, let me talk about that study just 1 second. This was a very interesting study. What they did is they put UVC light in, I think, a level 2 biocontainment system, and they varied the amount of light hitting airborne influenza going through this system, and then they measured how many virus particles were killed versus how many stayed alive for various wattages of light hitting the virus. Now what they did not do was vary the airflow rates or the dwell time. It would have been a more complete study if they did an analysis where they held the wattage constant and increased or decreased how long the air is exposed to those lights. And it was a very important reason to try to understand that. And I guess the best way I can explain it to you is in terms of what I call hairdryer days. You know, the formula for the kill power is the watts times the number of seconds the particle is exposed to it, divided by the area, centimeters per squared, for the basically for the fluence. Now, how to put that and explain that in hairdryer days. If you used a hairdryer every day for a year, you would have 365 hairdryer days. Now, so that's the definition, 365 hairdryer days. Well, there's two ways to come up, for somebody to come up with 365 hairdryer days. And that is to use one hairdryer for 365 days. There's another way. You can use 365 hairdryers for one day. Now, they both give you the same answer, 365 hairdryer days, but one methodology is more liable to kill you. The other methodology is more liable to give you dry, fluffy hair. Personally, I'd rather use a hairdryer for 365 days than use 365 hairdryers all at the same time in one day. So they didn't address that. So one thing to look for in these units is wattage. You can feel more secure with greater wattage. The Swordfish unit here, Swordfish, 18 watts, 5.5 watts in the UVC band, 30 cubic feet per minute. The Germ Guardian had half the wattage, 9 watts, 2.2 of which was in the UVC band. So greater wattage for the same cubic feet per minute, much more important, we believe. And then we came, here's our probability of kill chart again. One key thing to take out of this is once you get past approximately 56 milliwatt seconds per centimeter squared, some people also call that a joule. That would be 56 joules per centimeter squared. The difference between relative humidity starts to have a much lesser effect on the killability, the probability kill of the influenza virus. And if we look at the Swordfish, it just so happens we calculate the fluence to be the fluence and dwell time to be 67 milliwatt seconds per centimeter squared, and even after 9,000 hours, it's still a 57. So this is a relatively unaffected by relative humidity, whereas the Germ Guardian, with its lower wattages, is below that value significantly. So there you'll see a big difference in relative humidity having an effect on it. So what does all this mean? Well, all this means to us is we have relatively high confidence that this Swordfish unit is a suitable instrument to add to our risk mitigation portfolio. Whether or not it's suitable for you, that's up for you to decide. We have no conflict of interest. We only share our information so that if you find something out, you share it back. One thing we're particularly interested in is if you see unusual pigeon calls going around in your neighborhood, or if your city starts calling pigeons here. Reporting that would give us a good indication that there's actually something going on. But again, no conflict of interest. This is the one unit we found best of all. Links on our webpage. I think our final commentary is, and we wrote this also on our webpage, this is something to consider here, is that ideally exhausting virus-laden air to the outdoors is preferable to sanitizing, filtering, and recirculating stagnant room air. But when that's not possible, Our analysis indicates that against influenza, the Swordfish can offer a quiet, low airflow level of protection, roughly equivalent to a louder, portable, medical-grade HEPA unit with 3 times the airflow rate. We expect that value to be even higher versus a home-grade HEPA unit. Still, we envision that the Swordfish is best utilized in conjunction with HEPA units. And ideally, you want a HEPA unit that's as big as possible, that works in the largest room possible, operated at the lowest speed. Now, there are places where the Swordfish might be better utilized by itself. And that's in a standalone mode where space and noise concerns would prevent a HEPA unit from being well utilized. Also a place where there's a stagnant air. And one key place where that sort of fits that bill is dorm rooms. If you have, I can well envision that a HEPA unit is liable to be turned off inside of a dorm room just because they're loud. Whereas the Swordfish unit, being a third of the air velocity, is much quieter. So it has a much greater probability of being left on and being unobtrusive in the room. And those kind of conditions might work out well. But again, in the unlikely event, and we do think it's unlikely that there'll be a H7N9 pandemic this year, but if it is, based on what's happened already, it'll be a nightmare scenario. But exhausting room air to the outside is the preferable thing to do. That way, virus doesn't get into the rest of the house, and fresh air from the house goes into the room. So that's the preferable thing. The capital costs of that are much lower because you don't have to buy anything. You just put a small fan in the window, assuming you have one already. But the reoccurring costs are much higher because of the potential heating aspect. So if you throw in reoccurring costs versus heating costs of lost air, then as a precaution, these Swordfish type units in a HEPA unit are probably better off, or more or less expensive. Although if I had somebody who's potentially had H7N9 bird flu in my house, which will most likely be a child who won't be sick enough to go to the hospital but will be sick enough to infect and kill an adult, I think I'd have those bedroom windows wide open with a fan blasting out. I don't care how much we spent in heat for that month. But again, none of this is medical advice. We have no conflict of interest. Just please share your information back with us. Thank you.